The night was quiet at Seoul Orbital Station. Dr. Hana sat alone in the communication room, watching screens filled with data from deep space. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. Most people found night shifts boring, but Hana loved them. The silence let her think. At exactly 3 in the morning, something changed. One of her screens flickered. A signal appeared, weak and broken, coming from somewhere far beyond explored space. Hana sat up straight. In her 12 years of work, she had never seen anything like this. She ran the signal through translation software. The computer struggled for several minutes. Then words appeared on her screen, fragmented and desperate. "Please, anyone. We are dying. They consume everything. Please help us." Hana's hands trembled as she saved the recording. She immediately contacted Earth Command. Within an hour, the message had reached the highest levels of government. Within a day, the entire world knew humanity was not alone, and someone out there needed help. 2 weeks later, a damaged ship appeared near Earth's moon. It was small and shaped like a teardrop, made of smooth silver metal. The vessel moved slowly, barely able to fly. When it landed at the international spaceport, soldiers surrounded it with weapons ready. The door opened. A creature stepped out and collapsed on the ground. Her name was Leah. She belonged to a species called the Keth. She looked almost human, but not quite. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were large and dark. She had no hair, and her fingers were long and thin. She was young by her people's standards, barely an adult. Soldiers carried her to a medical facility. Doctors worked to save her life. When she finally woke 3 days later, she asked to speak to Earth's leaders. Her message was urgent. The United Nations called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every country gathered in one room. Leah stood before them, still weak, but determined to speak. "My people are the Keth," she began. Her voice was soft but clear. "We have lived in peace for 2,000 years. We built our civilization on trade and friendship. We believed war was primitive, something lesser species did. We were wrong." She pressed a button, and images appeared on a large screen. The leaders saw beautiful planets with tall cities and green forests. Then they saw those same planets burning. Cities turned to ash. Forests became wastelands. "The Vorath swarm has returned," Leah continued. "They are ancient, older than any species we know. They do not talk. They do not negotiate. They only consume. They eat everything. Plants, animals, people. They strip entire worlds bare and move on to the next." The images showed the enemy. The Vorath were terrifying. Their ships were alive, made of flesh and bone. Each vessel carried millions of drones, creatures with sharp claws and empty eyes, built only to kill and feed. "We tried to fight," Leah said, "but we have no weapons. We never built any. Our ships are made for carrying goods, not for war. When the swarm came, we could do nothing but run." She paused. Tears fell from her dark eyes. "We have lost 8 worlds. Billions of our people are dead. The swarm moves toward our homeworld now. In 30 days, my entire species will be gone." The room was silent. Leaders looked at each other, some with fear, some with doubt, some with pity. "Why come to us?" asked one leader. "We are new to space. We only discovered faster-than-light travel 40 years ago. What can we do?" Leah looked at him. "We have heard stories about your kind. The other species in the galaxy think humans are strange. You are small and soft. You live short lives, but you fight. You fight each other. You fight nature. You fight death itself. You never stop fighting." She took a deep breath. "The Keth have forgotten how to fight. We need someone to remember for us. We need you." Silence filled the room again. Then arguments began. Some leaders said Earth should stay out of this war. The swarm was far away. Why risk human lives for aliens? Others said the swarm would eventually come to Earth anyway. Better to fight them now, far from home, than wait for them to arrive. The debate went on for hours. Admiral Park Ji-hun listened without speaking. He was an old man with gray hair and a calm face. He had commanded Earth's defense forces for 20 years. He had seen humanity build its fleet in secret, preparing for the day when threats from space would come. Finally, when everyone else had spoken, Ji-hun stood up. 60 years ago, we learned we were not alone in the universe, he said. We learned that space is dangerous. We learned that peaceful species get destroyed. So we prepared. We built ships. We trained soldiers. We created weapons that could fight any enemy. He looked at Leah. We built the ultimate fleet, the greatest military force in human history. We built it hoping we would never use it. He turned to the other leaders. But we did not build it to let it rust. We built it to protect the innocent. We built it to stand against evil. If we refused to help now, what was the point of any of it? The room fell quiet. Ji-hun's words hung in the air. I vote yes, he said. Humanity answers the call. One by one, other leaders raised their hands. The vote passed. Leah fell to her knees and wept. For the first time in months, she felt something she had forgotten. Hope. Across the world, news spread fast. Humanity was going to war, not for land, not for resources, not for power. They were going to war to save strangers they had never met. Some people were scared, some were proud, but everyone understood that the universe had changed forever. In the darkness of space, the swarm continued its march toward Keth homeworld. They did not know that something new was coming, something they had never faced before. Humanity was coming, and humanity had learned a long time ago how to fight. The order went out at midnight. Across Earth and its orbital stations, alarms rang. Soldiers woke from sleep. Engineers ran to their posts. Pilots rushed to their ships. The ultimate fleet was waking up. Captain Yuna received her orders while eating dinner in her small apartment. She read the message twice to make sure it was real. Then she grabbed her uniform and ran. 20 minutes later, she stood in a shuttle heading toward orbit. Through the window, she saw something that made her heart beat faster. Ships, hundreds of them, thousands of them. They floated in Earth's orbit like sleeping giants, dark against the stars. For 60 years, humanity had built them in secret. Now they were coming alive. Yuna's shuttle approached the biggest ship of all, the Eternal Dawn. It was 3 kilometers long, shaped like a sword pointing at the stars. Its hull was covered in weapons, railguns, missile launchers, energy cannons. It was not built to be beautiful. It was built to win wars. She walked through the ship's corridors. Crew members saluted as she passed. Everyone moved with purpose. Everyone knew their job. Yuna reached the bridge and took her place in the captain's chair. All systems online, reported her second officer. The Eternal Dawn is ready for battle. Yuna nodded. Through the main screen, she could see other ships powering up. Destroyers moved into formation. Cruisers tested their weapons. Carrier ships launched small fighters that flew in perfect patterns. It was the most powerful military force ever created by any species. On another ship, Lieutenant Minho checked his weapon systems for the 10th time. He was young, only 28, but he was the best tactical officer in the fleet. His job was simple. When the fighting started, he would point the guns and fire them. He had trained for this his entire adult life. He was ready. The railguns were his favorite weapons. They fired metal rods the size of cars at incredible speed. No shield could stop them. No armor could survive them. One hit could destroy an enemy ship. The Eternal Dawn carried 48 of them. Beautiful, aren't they? Said a voice behind him. Minho turned. Dr. Hana stood there, smiling. She had joined the fleet as the chief science officer and alien liaison. Her job was to understand the enemy and help the Keth. They're tools, Minho said. Tools to keep people alive. Hana nodded. The Keth have no weapons at all. Did you know that? They removed all weapons from their society 1,000 years ago. They thought it would bring peace. Did it? For a while, until something came that didn't care about peace. In the lower levels of the ship, Commander Taehyun assembled his soldiers. They were called the Black Wolves, the most elite ground assault unit in human history. Each soldier wore powered armor that made them stronger and faster. Each soldier carried weapons that could kill anything. Taehyun looked at his team. Men and women from every country on Earth. They had trained together, bled together, become family together. Now, they would fight together. Listen up, he said. Our job is simple. If the enemy gets on our ships, we kill them. If we land on their ships, we kill them. If we find their base, we kill them. Questions? No one spoke. They understood. Good. Get some rest. We move in 6 hours. High above the fleet, Admiral Ji-hoon stood on the command station. He watched the ships gather through a massive window. Behind him, screens showed data from every vessel, power levels, crew status, weapon readiness. Everything was working perfectly. Leah stood beside him. She had recovered from her injuries and insisted on joining the mission. She wanted to see her people saved or die trying. "There are so many ships," she whispered. "I have never seen anything like this." 412 warships, Ji-hoon said. 50,000 fighters, 300,000 soldiers, the largest fleet ever assembled by humans. Leah shook her head in wonder. The Keth Collective has existed for 2,000 years. In all that time, we never built a single warship. Humans have existed for less than 10,000 years, and you built all of this. Ji-hoon smiled sadly. We built it because we had to. Humans have been fighting wars since the beginning. We fought over food. We fought over land. We fought over ideas. War is in our blood. We hate it, but we are good at it. Perhaps that is why you survived, Leah said. Perhaps that is why you became strong. Ji-hoon did not answer. He pressed a button on his console. His voice reached every ship in the fleet. Soldiers of Earth, sailors of the stars, today we leave our home to fight a war that is not ours. We go to save people we have never met. Some of you might ask why. Why should we die for strangers? He paused. The fleet was silent, listening. I will tell you why. Because it is right. Because the Keth asked for help, and we can give it. Because somewhere out there, children are scared and families are dying, and we have the power to stop it. We are not going to war for glory or conquest. We are going to war because that is what humans do. We protect the weak. We stand against evil. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. His voice grew stronger. The Vorath swarm thinks the galaxy belongs to the strong. They think they can take whatever they want. They think no one can stop them. Today we prove them wrong. Today we show the universe what humanity really is, not a weak species hiding on a small planet, but warriors. Defenders. Heroes. He raised his hand. All ships, enter hyperspace. Destination, Keth space. Let's bring our new friends some hope. The fleet moved as one. Engines glowed bright blue. Space itself seemed to bend around the ships. One by one, they vanished into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. On the surface of the planet, millions of people watched the night sky. They saw bright flashes as the ships jumped away. Some prayed, some cried, some saluted. All of them felt proud. Their sons and daughters were going to war, going to save strangers, going to prove that humanity was more than just survivors. They were heroes. The journey through hyperspace took 3 days. Soldiers trained, officers planned, engineers checked everything twice. Yuna barely slept, spending every hour preparing for battle. Minho studied the Vorath. He learned their tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns. Hana taught him everything the Keth knew about the enemy. It was not much, but it was enough. Taehyun ran combat drills with his Black Wolves. They practiced fighting in tight corridors, in zero gravity, in total darkness. They were ready for anything. And at the edge of Keth space, the swarm waited. 10,000 bioships filled with billions of hungry drones. They had destroyed 8 worlds already. They expected the 9th to fall just as easily. They did not know that humanity was coming. They did not know that everything was about to change. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Keth territory. What they saw made even the bravest soldiers feel cold. 3 planets floated dead in space. Their surfaces were gray and empty. No cities, no forests, no oceans. The swarm had eaten everything. Billions of Keth had lived on those worlds. Now there was nothing left but rock and dust. "My God," Yuna whispered, staring at the screens. Debris floated everywhere. Broken ships, destroyed stations, bodies frozen in the void. The Keth defense fleet had tried to fight. They had failed completely. "Captain," Minho said quietly, "I'm detecting energy signatures ahead. Lots of them." Yuna nodded. "Show me." The main screen changed. In the distance, moving toward the Keth homeworld, was the swarm. 10,000 ships, maybe more. They moved together like a single living thing, a dark cloud spreading across the stars. Admiral Jihoon's voice came through the communication system. "All ships, this is command. We have visual contact with the enemy. Move to intercept." "We stopped them here." The human fleet changed course. 400 warships against 10,000. The numbers were not good, but humans had fought worse odds before. On the Keth homeworld, Elder Voss watched from his council chamber. He was old, the oldest of his kind. He had led the Keth collective for 50 years. Now he watched strangers fly to their death for his people. He opened a channel to the human flagship. "Admiral Jihoon, the swarm is too large. You cannot win. Save your ships. Save your people. We will accept our fate." Jihoon's answer was immediate. "With respect, Elder Voss, we did not travel this far to run away. Keep your people safe. We will handle the rest." Voss did not know what to say. He had never met a species like humans before. They confused him. They frightened him. But they also gave him something he had lost: hope. The two forces moved closer. The swarm did not slow down. They had never met an enemy that could stop them. They expected this battle to be easy, like all the others. Captain Yuna gripped her chair as the enemy came into weapons range. The Vorath ships were horrible to look at. They were alive, made of flesh and bone, covered in pulsing veins and sharp spikes. They did not have crews. They were creatures, grown for war. "All weapons ready," Minho reported. His hands moved across his console, targeting the nearest enemy ships. "Fire," Yuna said. The Eternal Dawn unleashed its fury. Railguns roared, sending metal rods flying at incredible speed. Missiles launched by the dozens. Energy beams cut through space like burning swords. The first Vorath ships exploded. Then more. Then hundreds. The human fleet fired together, a wall of death that tore into the swarm. Vorath ships died by the thousands. Their organic hulls shattered. Their drone armies spilled into space and froze instantly. For a moment, it seemed too easy. Then the swarm adapted. The remaining Vorath ships changed their formation. They spread out, making themselves harder to hit. They moved faster, dodging human weapons. They started firing back, launching streams of acid that burned through metal, shooting biological missiles that exploded against shields. "Shields at 80%, an officer reported. 60%. 40. Yuna watched the numbers drop. Human shields were strong, but the swarm was endless. For every ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. "They're adapting to our tactics," Hana said from her station. "The hive mind is learning. They've never faced weapons like ours before, but they're figuring them out." "Then we change tactics too," Yuna said. "Minho, switch to close combat pattern. All ships, break formation, and engage at will." The battle became chaos. Human ships flew into the middle of the swarm, firing in all directions. Vorath vessels tried to surround them, but human pilots were too skilled. They dodged, they weaved, they struck and retreated and struck again. Commander Tae-hyun got the alert he had been waiting for. Enemy boarding parties. "Black Wolves, move!" he shouted. His soldiers grabbed their weapons and ran toward the lower decks. The Vorath had found a way onto the Eternal Dawn. They came through a damaged section of the hull, thousands of drones pouring into the ship. They were fast and deadly, with claws that could cut through steel. Tae-hyun met them head-on. His powered armor made him a giant. His weapon fired explosive rounds that tore through flesh. Around him, his soldiers fought like demons, holding every corridor, defending every door. The fighting was brutal. Drones leaped at soldiers, claws scraped against armor. Blood, both human and alien, covered the floors. Some soldiers fell. Tae-hyun saw friends die, but they did not break. They did not run. They fought with a fury that surprised even the mindless swarm. "Push them back!" Tae-hyun roared. "Not one step further!" The Black Wolves pushed forward. They filled the corridors with fire. They killed everything in their path. 1 hour later, the last drone fell. The boarding party was destroyed. Outside, the space battle raged on. Hours passed. Human ships took damage. Some were destroyed. The names of the dead grew longer. But the swarm was dying faster. Minho lost count of how many enemy ships he had destroyed. His hands ached from working the controls. His eyes burned from staring at screens. But he kept firing. Everyone kept firing. After 19 hours, something incredible happened. The swarm stopped attacking. The remaining ships turned and fled, disappearing into the darkness of space. Silence fell over the fleet. No one could believe it. "They're retreating," an officer said. "The swarm is retreating." Yuna slumped in her chair. She was exhausted, but she was alive. They were all alive. Well, most of them. Admiral Ji-hoon's voice came through the speakers. "All ships, report status." The numbers came in slowly. 23 human ships destroyed. Thousands of soldiers and crew dead. The cost of victory was high, but the swarm had lost over 4,000 ships. They had never suffered such a defeat. In all their centuries of conquest, no one had ever made them run. On the Keth homeworld, Elder Voss watched the battle results with tears in his eyes. The strangers had done it. They had actually done it. He opened a channel to the human fleet. His voice shook as he spoke. "Admiral Ji-hoon, my people owe you a debt we can never repay. You saved us. You saved everything." Ji-hoon's response was tired but warm. "We're not done yet, Elder Voss. They retreated, but they'll be back. We need to find a way to end this war for good." In her quarters, Dr. Hana stared at data from the captured Vorath biomatter. Something about it puzzled her. Something important. She worked through the night, analyzing every cell, every protein, every genetic marker. And slowly, a picture began to form. A picture that would change everything. The swarm was not just an enemy. They were survivors, and their story was more tragic than anyone had imagined. Dr. Hana called an emergency meeting. The top officers of the fleet gathered in the conference room of the Eternal Dawn. They were tired from battle, but Hana's face told them this was important. "I have discovered something about the Vorath," she said. "Something that changes everything." She pressed a button. Images appeared on the screen. Strange biological data, genetic maps, chemical formulas. "The swarm is starving," Hana explained. "Their bodies need specific nutrients to survive. Millions of years ago, they had a home galaxy filled with these nutrients. They did not need to conquer anyone. They simply existed." "What happened?" Captain Yuna asked. "Their galaxy died. A supernova chain reaction destroyed everything. The Vorath were forced to flee. They became wanderers, searching for food. The only way they could get the nutrients they needed was by consuming living worlds." Admiral Ji-hoon leaned forward. "You're saying they attack because they have to?" Not because they want to. Hana nodded. The individual drones are mindless. They follow commands from a central intelligence, the hive mind. But the hive mind itself is not evil. It is desperate. It is trying to keep its species alive the only way it knows how. The room fell silent. This was not what anyone expected. They had come to fight monsters. Now they learned the monsters were just hungry survivors. "This changes nothing," Minho said firmly. "They killed billions of Keth. They would kill us too." "You're right," Hana agreed. "But there may be another way to end this. A way that doesn't require us to kill every single one of them." She changed the image on the screen. It showed a massive structure, a biological station the size of a small moon. This is the Hive Heart. It's where the central intelligence lives. Every Vorath drone receives orders from here. If we destroy the control center, the drones will become free. They will no longer be forced to attack. "What happens to the drones then?" Yuna asked. "They become individuals. Some might die without guidance. Others might survive and learn to live differently. But they would no longer be a threat." Commander Tae-hyun crossed his arms. "And what about this central intelligence? The hive mind? It just lets us walk in and destroy it?" "I don't know," Hana admitted. "But I believe we should try to communicate with it first. If it's truly desperate rather than evil, maybe it will see another way." Ji-hoon thought for a long moment. The choice was difficult. They could continue fighting, kill every Vorath ship one by one. It would take years. Many more humans would die. Or they could take a risk. Try something no one had tried before. "We will attempt communication," he decided. "But we prepare for war at the same time. If they refuse to talk, we destroy the Hive Heart by force." A small task force was assembled. The Eternal Dawn led the way, followed by 20 other warships. They tracked the retreating swarm through space, following them toward the center of Vorath territory. The journey took 5 days. As they traveled deeper, they passed the remains of dead civilizations, planets stripped bare, stations left empty. The Vorath had been doing this for a very long time. Finally, they found it. The Hive Heart. It floated in space like a tumor, dark and pulsing. Tubes and veins covered its surface. Ships flew around it like insects around a nest. It was ancient and terrible and somehow sad. "Open a communication channel," Ji-hoon ordered. "All frequencies. Let's see if anyone is listening." Static filled the speakers. Then something else. Not words, but feelings. Emotions that pushed into the minds of everyone on the ship. Hunger. Endless, burning hunger. The pain of watching your children starve. The desperation of having no choice but to do terrible things to survive. Several crew members grabbed their heads in pain. Hana remained calm. She focused on sending emotions back. Not fear, not anger, but understanding. Sympathy. The presence in their minds changed. Confusion, surprise. No one had ever tried to understand before. Then a voice spoke. It was ancient and tired, like a grandmother who had lived too long. "Why do you not attack? Why do you try to speak?" Hana stepped forward. "Because we want to understand. We know your story. We know you are not evil. You are survivors like us." The voice was silent for a moment. Then images flooded their minds. Memories of a beautiful galaxy full of life. The terror of watching it burn. The long, cold journey through empty space. The first time they attacked another species, not from hatred, but from desperate need. "We did not want this," the voice said. "I did not want this. But my children were dying. I had to save them. I had to feed them. I became a monster to keep my family alive." Tears ran down Hana's face. She understood now. The swarm was not an army. It was a family, a mother trying to save her children. "There has to be another way," Hana said. "We can help you find it. We have technology, resources. Maybe we can create the nutrients you need without destroying worlds." The voice laughed, but it was a sad sound. "It is too late for that. The hive heart is dying. I am dying. I have lived for millions of years, but I cannot live much longer. When I die, my children will be lost. They will attack without direction, without purpose. They will become true monsters." Admiral Jihoon spoke. "Then let us help you die peacefully. Release your children from the hive mind. Give them a chance to become something else." Silence. Long, terrible silence. "You would do this? You would risk your lives to save my children after everything we have done?" "Yes," Jihoon said, "because it is the right thing to do." More silence. Then slowly, the presence in their minds changed. The hunger faded. The desperation calmed. Something like peace appeared. "Very well. I will open the hive heart to you. Go to the central chamber and destroy the control nodes. It will kill me, but it will free my children. They will be confused at first. They may still be dangerous, but without my commands, they will no longer be forced to kill." The voice grew softer. "I have one request. Remember us. Not as monsters, as survivors who did terrible things for love. Tell the galaxy our story. Let them know we were once a gentle people." Hana wiped her tears. "We will remember." "I promise." Commander Tae-hyun assembled his black wolves. They boarded shuttles and flew toward the hive heart. The massive structure opened for them, creating a path through flesh and bone. Inside, it was like walking through a living body. Walls pulsed, floors breathed, strange liquids dripped from above. Some drones stood along the corridors, but they did not attack. They simply watched. The journey to the central chamber took 3 hours. When they arrived, they found a massive brain-like structure connected to millions of tubes. This was the control center, the Queen's consciousness. Tae-hyun looked at the target. He felt strange. He had expected to fight. Instead, he was performing a mercy killing. "Set the charges," he ordered. His soldiers worked quickly. Explosives were placed at key points around the chamber. The Queen's voice spoke one last time in their minds. "Thank you, strange humans. You are not like the others. You understand that strength is not about killing. It is about choosing when to kill and when to show mercy." Tae-hyun paused with his hand on the detonator. "Any final words?" "Yes. Take care of my children. They will need guidance." He pressed the button. The explosions ripped through the chamber. The hive heart screamed, not in anger, but in release. The Queen was finally free from millions of years of guilt and pain. Across the galaxy, Vorath drones stopped mid-attack. They stood frozen, confused. The voice in their heads was gone. The commands had stopped. For the first time in their existence, they were alone. Some died immediately, unable to survive without direction. Others wandered aimlessly. But some, a small number, looked around and began to think. Truly think. For the first time in millions of years, the Vorath were free. Commander Tae-hyun led his soldiers back to the shuttles. Behind them, the hive heart collapsed in on itself, an ancient structure, finally allowed to die. When they returned to the eternal dawn, no one celebrated. This was not a victory. It was an ending, and like all endings, it was both sad and hopeful. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. The Vorath swarm was broken. The ancient terror that had destroyed countless civilizations was finally over. And it was humans, young, strange, violent humans, who had ended it. On the Keth homeworld, celebrations lasted for days. People danced in the streets. Children laughed for the first time in months. Families who had prepared to die were suddenly planning for the future. Elder Voss stood before his people and spoke words he never thought he would say. We are alive because strangers chose to help us. We are alive because humans refuse to ignore our pain. Today we honor them not as warriors, but as friends. The human fleet remained in Keth space for 2 weeks. There was much work to do. Damaged ships needed repair, the dead needed to be honored, and the galaxy needed to understand what had happened. Admiral Jihoon met with Elder Voss in the Great Council chamber. The two leaders sat across from each other, surrounded by their advisors. You saved my people, Voss said. I wish to give you something in return. Name anything. Planets, technology, resources. Whatever you want is yours. Jihoon shook his head. We did not come for payment. We came because you asked for help. That is enough. Voss looked confused. I do not understand your people. You fight so well, yet you ask for nothing. You killed thousands, yet you showed mercy to your enemy. You are violent and gentle at the same time. How is this possible? Jihoon smiled. It was a tired smile, full of years and wisdom. Humans have always been complicated. We have done terrible things in our history. We have also done wonderful things. We are capable of great evil and great good. We choose which one to be. That is what makes us human. Voss considered this. Perhaps we Keth have much to learn from you. We removed violence from our society and became weak. You kept violence but learned to control it. Perhaps there is a balance we never found. Balance is the key, Jihoon agreed. The galaxy is dangerous. Peace is a gift, but it must be protected. Sometimes that protection requires strength. In another part of the city, Captain Yuna walked through a memorial garden. The Keth had built it overnight, filling it with flowers from 100 worlds. Each flower represented a human who had died in the battle. She stopped at a small stone with a name carved into it. Lieutenant Kim Doyun. He had been 22 years old, barely out of the academy. His ship was destroyed in the 3rd hour of battle. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, Yuna whispered. I hope it was worth it. She stayed there for a long time, remembering all the faces she would never see again. On the eternal dawn, Lieutenant Minho sat in the weapons bay, staring at his railguns. They were cold now, silent. He had fired them so many times during the battle. Each shot had killed. He had done his job perfectly. So why did he feel empty? Dr. Hana found him there. She sat beside him without speaking. I always thought I would feel proud, Minho said finally. If we ever fought a real war, if we ever saved people, I thought I would feel like a hero. But I just feel tired. Hana nodded. That's normal. Heroes in stories never get tired. Real heroes always do. It means you understand what we did. Killing, even killing monsters, costs something. Was it worth it? Ask the Keth children who will grow up because of you. Ask the families who will stay together. Ask everyone who gets to live because you fired those guns. She put a hand on his shoulder. Yes, Minho. It was worth it. Commander Tae-hyun refused all offers of celebration. Instead, he traveled back to Earth alone. He had a different mission now. For 3 months, he visited the families of every black wolf who died in the Hive Heart. He sat in their homes. He drank their tea. He told them exactly how their sons and daughters had died. She was brave, he told one mother. She held the line when everyone else was falling back. She saved 12 lives before the end. He never stopped fighting, he told a father, even when he was wounded, even when he knew he wouldn't survive. He made sure we could complete the mission. Some families cried. Some thanked him. Some were angry. Tae-hyun accepted it all. This was his duty. The dead deserved to be remembered. Dr. Hana did not return to Earth. She stayed on the Keth homeworld as the first human ambassador. Her job was to build trust between species, to create bonds that would last generations. She also began a secret project. Across the galaxy, surviving Vorath drones wandered without purpose. Most were killed by frightened species who still saw them as threats, but some, a small number, showed signs of intelligence. They were learning, adapting, becoming individuals. Hana collected these survivors. She brought them to a quiet moon far from other civilizations. She studied them. She taught them. She helped them understand that they did not have to be monsters. It was slow work. Many of the Vorath could not change, but some could, and those few gave her hope. "You are not your past," she told them. "You are what you choose to be. The Queen wanted you to have a chance. Don't waste it." Back on Earth, Admiral Ji-hoon retired. He was 73 years old, tired of war and death. He bought a small house by the sea and spent his days fishing. Leah visited him one spring afternoon. She had become an ambassador, too, representing the Keth Collective to Earth. They sat on his porch, watching the waves. "The galaxy is different now," Leah said. "Other species are asking about humans. They want to know more about you. They want to understand how such a young species became so powerful." Ji-hoon laughed. "We're not powerful. We're stubborn. There's a difference." "Perhaps. But your stubbornness saved my people. It changed the course of history." She paused. "I have been thinking about your speech. Before the battle, you said you fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. I did not understand it then. I think I understand it now." "And what do you understand?" Leah looked at the ocean. "Strength without purpose is just violence. You humans are strong, but you use your strength to protect. That is what makes you different. That is what makes you worthy of respect." Ji-hoon smiled. It was the first real smile he had allowed himself in months. "We're not heroes, Leah. We're just people. We make mistakes. We get scared. We don't always do the right thing. But we try. That's all anyone can do." They sat in silence for a while, enjoying the peace. Across the galaxy, other distress signals were already traveling through space. Other species were facing their own threats. Other innocents were calling for help. The ultimate fleet had returned to Earth, but it remained ready. The ships were repaired. The soldiers were trained. When the next call came, they would answer, because that was what humanity did. They heard cries for help, and they responded. Not for glory, not for power, not for reward, simply because someone needed them. In the deepest part of space, a small group of Vorath survivors built a simple structure on an empty moon. They had learned to grow food without consuming worlds. They had learned to think without a hive mind. They were no longer monsters. They created a monument there, a simple stone pillar with words carved in the human language. It read, "In memory of the Queen who gave us freedom, in gratitude to the humans who gave us mercy, may we prove worthy of both." The stars shone down on the little monument. Somewhere out there, humanity continued its journey, building, growing, protecting. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of hope. And as long as humans drew breath, that hope would never die. The end had become a beginning, and the beginning stretched forward into a future brighter than anyone had imagined. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy was not waiting for the next disaster. It was waiting for the next miracle.